So this past weekend we had none other than not one but 3 events go off for Digimon trading card game for BT-15. So I'm excited to talk about all these goodies that are coming in. And you know what, guys? Hopefully you enjoyed this video and the way I'm going to be presenting data like this from going forwards. I want to do like a breakdown, not really going over the individual events themselves, but there's multiple events all weekend. We'll talk about them all weekend and then just go over all the list. So without further ado, let's dive in the video and talk about it. First off, as you can see, I made a little bit of a graph for all of us to enjoy here. We have 6 Deva, 6 Nume, and 6 Red Hybrid taking in all 3 events the highest ranking. This is our top 3 for the weekend, was Devas, Nume, and Red Hybrid. Red Hybrid kind of makes a very interesting way of play here. Red Hybrid does well into the Deva matchup, I feel, because they're faster and you can just go quicker than what they're ready for underneath. And then you have Devas being able to blanket the board with their FenriLoogamon being able to remove anything that can pop up twice, which ends up being a triangle format, in my opinion. Either taking Devas, Nume, or Red Hybrids a really good, strong choice, in my opinion. Then you do have OTK decks that can fly under all these decks at any given time, but just keep that in mind. Even the surprise this weekend, we went from, maybe 1 Dog Bunny deck to now we have 4 in a total of 3 events, which is kind of good to see a good conversion rate. That I would love to know the data between every player, but yeah, that's not happening at the moment. Then we have 4 SetCon lists actually making a reappearance. SetCon is one of those decks that won't die. But yeah, this is just one of those decks that are just going to do things. Then you have FenriLoogamon kind of showing up in the top 6 of the most played decks in your top 16s, and FenriLooga is really powerful because it can just OTK it wants to do. Then you have ShineGreymon and Mirage kind of tying it up as the old OTK decks. But yeah, this is looking pretty solid. Then you have D-Brigade, BloomLord, Levia, Machine, Heavy Leo, Royal Knights, Millith, Armors, and Balfamon at the end here. If you take a look here as a normal image, that we have the number of decks, what types they were, the top 16 of Latum, the top 16 of Vortex, and the top 16 of the Play TCG. These are just the archetypes, nothing too crazy out of here. Just, I'm not going to break down the top 16 completely, like I said before in the earlier video. I just wanted to showcase what the top 16 breakdown was. But going into it, the first place for Vortex was Mirage Galga, showing that OTK decks still have the potential of getting through most anything. Just the deck in general is just very powerful and nothing too out of the ordinary here. Option removal is very important, especially being able to bounce threats with Full Moon Meteor Impact is really good. You have Betamon here with the jamming inheritable. What's really interesting though is you have Wanyamon at 1, 2 Demi V-Mons to give, if your 8 cards or more in your hand, gain 1000 DP. I'm just guessing if you just don't have Buka, you can get that extra DP threshold, which is very common for your deck to actually reach this high. And then, yeah, the 1 Buku to go off. I think this has a lot of potential, nothing too out of the ordinary from there, besides the Egg Digitama. Then we do have the Latum first place list, which was Devas itself. As I mentioned earlier, with FenriLoogamon in the picture, being able to return up to 4 cards with Deva or 4 Sovereign traits from your trash to the bottom of the deck. For each card return, all your opponent's Digimon gets minus 4000 DP. This is a blanket effect that is very important because this blanket effect just keeps blowing things up. That means Numemon has a little more trouble into this matchup. They have to go faster than this, or if FenriLoogamon comes down, the deck really struggles to deal with it because this thing, they don't have many option removals in the deck. Their main focus is just go in, just to rapid it out and just hit damage. But with FenriLoogamon existing, that potential that it has, especially because how the deck operates, is that it wants to play bodies. If it's going up against Numemon, this thing just produces a blanket and all those Numemon X antibodies keeps popping. They'll play things and then they'll lose out on it because most likely FenriLoogamon's making a blanket that's enough to kill even the strongest Platinum Numemon, and even then Platinum is only going to play a whatchamacallit, MachineDramon. If all it's doing is that, just two Deva pieces going back can just really ruin that deck. Yeah, with that kind of blanketed, just to get the board just cleared, Fanglong is just very scary for that matchup. And it's really interesting to see how the deck has developed a little bit. We know Genai has always been here, Analog Youth. I've seen some lists that did have MegaGargo Ace instead of Bahumon Ace. But yeah, that is an option as well. I think has a lot of potential here. I love the Miharamon. Just a very interesting suspend one of your opponent's Digimon with 7,000 DP or less. Then until the end of opponent's turn, one of your opponent's Digimon cannot unsuspend. Lockdown is really good, but all in all, a really solid list. Nothing too out of the ordinary here. And then here's Play TCG's Numemon. This is the first version we've seen of purple bottom line. This guy had one goal and one goal in mind, and is that to send max rarity Chimeramon to the top. He played two of them, told his friends, make sure you get your max rarity Chimera, we're gonna make this go up. But yeah, I love the Omnimon Zawart defeat tech in the deck. It's really has a lot of potential, especially because you don't have big threats. I love that his explanation for the Omnimon Zawart defeat was in there for the Leviamon matchup. Leviamon will pop Omnimon Zawart. Omnimon Zawart instantly trades with Levia, and then boom, they lose out on everything. That can just be really scary at the end of the day. But all in all, really solid list. At the Gabumon X antibody here with the Gabumon, just because it can search out your X antibodies, and that does help out at the end of the day. I think this could be developed a little bit differently and probably designed slightly different with a Agumon X line. I love the Demi Mirror just because it's going to draw you pieces and get you your Mumses or your Numemon X in the graveyard as soon as possible, or, well, you know, the Demi Mirror is going to get the Platinum Nume, or the... Really, you're just trying to throw Platinum Nume in there. Because level 5s are higher, there's not really other targets you would really want to trash. But you also have this Demi Mirror that's going to draw on discard. I think maybe you go with the other one, to be honest with you, but that's just me. I think going black base might actually help this list too, but I really like where this came from. I got the good understanding of what he was playing when I watched this video. Good. Vortex, we had ShineGreymon taking the highest ranking in Vortex. You know what it does? It wants to do Marcus Punch. I love that it's playing a little bit more option removal through Shining Blast and Sunrise Buster. Since you are going to have Tamers on board, you can really apply some scary pressure that way. And option removal is seen so little in this format, and you have at least decent archetypal options for ShineGreymon. Really good to see. Then we do have the MegaGargo. We're going to talk about two versions that I saw over the weekend, this being one of them. This one was pretty interesting. It did rely on a possible Henry Wong from EXO. It's not EXO2. No, they were playing the other Henry. Sorry about that. Give me a sec. Henry. They were playing this Henry to be able to warp in with the Gargo. Yeah, if their Digimon Terriermon was lost, at least Double Typhoon can replay. Hopefully you get enough memory to go off. What I really like is the spicy tech of Davis and Ken here. When one of your Digimon digivolves into a Digimon with two or more colors, you may suspend this tamer, unsuspend that Digimon. But your Rapidmon here that all turns goes off with your Terriermons can lead to being some scary maneuvers here. If it armor purges, then you digivolve back on top of it. Davis and Ken could restand it. And I know you're only going to gain one memory off of this, which is completely fine in this list, unless you had a Pyrodramon Dragon mode. But all in all, I love that there's two aces in the list, and this ace is pretty decent on its own. Just when the Digimon becomes suspended, you may play a Tamer card or one Digimon card with 4,000 DP or less from your hand without paying its cost. Kind of sets up Lotmon to be able to, you know, swing in with Alliance. But on play, one Digivolving, suspend one Digimon, then one Digimon, unsuspend one Digimon. But yeah, it can just do some multi-attacking shenanigans here. I like the list a lot. Then we did have a more Ukumon Louis Rush style thought process, which that's where we're at 5 eggs here. But Louis being able to do Louis shenanigans with Ukumon. I like the Calamon tech. It's a really interesting one. When your Digimon digivolves, you may suspend this Digimon to gain one memory, draw a card. And then if you have one of your Digimon with gets plus 3,000 DP for the turn. Really solid. Unlike the other lists we saw, this one is focusing on low to the ground hits first and then getting into the rapids and stuff like that afterwards. I like the Quartz in the Death Xmon. Really does round up into certain matchups that will give you some advantage points, and I like it. Then we do have Red Hybrid doing Red Hybrid shenanigans. 2 Crimson Blaze, 3 Atomic Infernos are kind of just commonplace here. You know, the Garurumon Ace to help play your Takuyas down, which you really want to do. Ukamon just being the raise up and just go crazy shenanigans. Greymon, Emperor Greymon. All this deck wants to do is go burr and just leave your opponent in a wreck. Then we do have the BloomLord list from Latam, which is really solid looking as well. I love the Yoshino tech. It's just a very unique tech for this deck and allowing you to play this out. I'm surprised no Lalamon to compensate for the Yoshino in there, because I know you can't search Mimi out naturally with your own Digimon at the point. I kind of get that you just don't care at that point. If you draw into it, you draw into it. But Yoshino just being able to reduce Digi-Evolution, gain 1 memory for your Digi-Evolution really does help out and makes it really hard for your opponent, and this one gain a memory. Really good. I mean, I like the 2 Hydro, 1 Quantum is a very interesting tech. You could go either or on this, but all in all, really solid for the Latam list. Nothing too out of the ordinary besides the Parasauramon. When an effect suspends one of your Digimon, suspend one of your opponent's Digimon. And then, you know, the whole when you would play a green Digimon by suspending this Digimon, reduce the play cost by 1. Can lead to having your Palmons come in for decently 2 cost here, or your Pumamon coming in for 2 costs, choking out your opponent, making them have a bad time. I see where it's going. Then we have Commandramon here being Commandramon. It's been a little bit since we've seen Commandramon even do anything, but I think finally people are starting to realize how to make the deck work. I like the Supreme Cannon connection tech here. Play one of your level 5 or higher with Machine or Cyborg and traits from your hand with a play cost reduced by 3. Now, under any circumstances, this Darkdramon can come in at 10. Which is really solid. You actually want that thing to come in when you make your opponent least expect it. Being able to give your opponent for 10 and then you're just going to reset anyway. Darkdramon can be very scary on its own. And this isn't like it's restricted to once per turn. You can do this Darkdramon shenanigans. If you have a second one and you have another Supreme Connection, this one will come in for even on a 0. You're coming in for 10, then resetting it back. As long as you have 10 bodies on board, this Darkdramon can get in at least 2 rush attacks in, and your opponent's going to have to answer it. I love the Alliance reboot shenanigans that Shu gives, and, you know, Satsuki also giving some shenanigans as well. Digipolice, it kind of hurts a little bit. This Darkdramon won't do anything with it, or this one. So you have to use your big Gaedramon Cargos, High Commandramon, and then, like, even this Commandramon and your Numes to kind of just get them underneath. And that can get a little bit of a difficult scenario, but it's up to you how you want to play the deck. Then we do have SetCon. Oh boy, SetCon. Revelation of Right at 1 is kind of interesting to me. But 1 Wyvern's Breath, Flame Helvesize, Chaos Degradation. You know who this is. Avenge Kidmon's going to do Avenge Kid shenanigans. I love the Azulamon Ace. It's a really good ace to go into, especially when you have Magnamon here or Magnamon Ace. Just good threading target. Gallantmon coming in to sneak some wins in. Kari to set your opponent back. And Digimon Emperor just to kind of deal with the Numemon matchup. And really all in all, kind of just very stock list that you're going to find. You know, Lament a Friendship to get your pieces back from your trash. It all matters sometimes. And then you have Black Seraphe just to help keep your board present. I like the Pillowmon, makes it so your players can't play by effects. Really useful. Then we do have FenriLooga. This one took in Vortex. Did have a delicate plan to get through the options. A little probably more of a meta call that they made. Really solid there. And then you have like Black Gato UV that's going to help get pieces out of your opponent's, you know, trash to help you draw. And I really like that concept just because against the Leviamon matchup, you need the Black Gato to deal with it. And all in all, really solid. You know, FenriLooga, Soul Luga, Hell Luga. Can't wait for the next Soul Luga. That does fix up the decks a little bit better. You know, Analog Youth at 3, 4 Elijah, 1 Matt, X Antibody Protoform, just because your whole thing is an X Antibody deck. You gain some value out of it. Then we have Leviamon with 3 regular X antibodies, you know, 4 Biting Crush, 7th Lightning. It looks like Leviamon is starting to lose favor in these major events. I don't know why, but Leviamon's still a viable deck. I just think people are not feeling as comfortable with it. Really interesting, they are playing 2 Bakamon. This Bakamon, it's just really interesting here. Just a very solid list in it anyway, but as you know, you're just going to be playing a body for free with Dragomon. Octomon's going to play a token, triggers Levia. Levia comes in and then goes to town. You know, you have Biting Crush and your Leviamon X antibody that's going to help out here. Then you do have MachineDramon. MachineDramon's a very nice one for Vortex as well. I like the Rapidmon at 1. They're not playing Metal Tyranno, which I would have done Rapid and Metal Tyranno, just because trashing things, especially in SetCon heavy formats, this helps keep them in check because you're just going to start clearing house and force trash. You know, MegaDramon's going to pop all the Karis, but you need to be able to swing into bodies and just take out things that way. It's a very interesting list because it is playing 3 Marvin Jackson and 3 Analog Man, and then 3 Attack of the Heavy Mobile with 2 Supreme Connection. It's all in all a really good list. You have Aerodramon plus 1 Raremon plus the 3 MegaDramon just to get your Mugen going and just having the pace. All in all, though, very solid list. Nothing to really critique much in this. I think this is a really solid one. But as you know, MachineDramon has multiple ways of playing. Either you build up and stack, or you go with the hard play shenanigans, which this is kind of where it's going with because Marvin wants to. I'm surprised there was no Ragnarlordmon as a top end one of, just because you do have access to Marvin Jackson and you can just do some crazy shenanigans. Maybe because they aren't playing Armadillomon is maybe why they didn't do it. All in all, still a fantastic list. Then we did get Heavy Leo doing Heavy Leo shenanigans. You know, you have Flashy Boss Punch to deal with threats, Final Zubergon Punch to add in some pressure in and just getting those hits in. You know, Heavy Leo getting off the board is not a problem because of the Fortitude. And then use like X Antibody to get back underneath. Then you have like Pulsemon at the end of your battle, suspend one of your opponent's Digimon, then add this to its owner's hand. Pulsemon being in the security really does sometimes matter, especially since we know there's a history of rookies going into security. Then we have Royal Knights doing some Royal Knights shenanigans. We see no Omekimon in this list, but they are playing 3 Digimon Emperor to probably just get the draw in, but just because you also have to face off against decks like Ukomon that you really want to slow down that rookie push up, and this kind of prevents Uko from going off because anytime they promote up, they're going to lose 2 memory and set themselves back. Then Alphamon here is just being Alphamon. Commandramon, very interesting for BT3 being a blocker, and then your Digimon with blocker can't be deleted by your opponent's effects. I kind of get where they're going with it. I think this is an out to Leviamon because your Leopardmon's going to give everybody a blanket blocker. So Commandramon's going to just make sure your bodies stay, especially when Leviamon comes out to say hi. You can just keep your guys on the board and not have to worry about it. It was a good meta call, I think. That is a very valid point. Just because you want to give anything that has blocker, you know, that protection. And that does help out. You know, you have Magnamon that's really nasty when Digivolve. You know, the blocker and armor purge kind of really shenanigans there. But this one's going to draw you a card when it leaves field because that's what's going to happen when Yggdrasil. Then you have like Examon here, just really good beater that's going to deal with a lot of threats. And if you can give him blocker with Leopardmon's effect, this can get really crazy pretty fast. Crimson Blaze to deal with those Psychmon shenanigans. And same thing with Marcus. Then you have Millith here being Millith. As you know, they are playing 3 Lilithmon. That's going to, any option you use, you gain 2 memory out of the deal. But also you have Ghoulmon here for every 10 cards in your trash the 3 cards of your opponent's deck. And if your opponent has 10 or more cards in their trash, this Digimon gains security attack 1. Ghoulmon's just kind of just getting in there to trash in and do some shenanigans, especially because it's when Digivolving when attacking. But you can just pass if you have 10 or more. You're milling 3. I mean, this deck is all just straight up mill, and it's going to gain you some value that way. Lament of Friendship to get pieces back. Searcher just being able to be killed with Alice. And that really does help out here. Then we do have Balphamon. Balphamon playing Ukomon is a very interesting tech choice, but we got like Raremons in here. Ukomon just because you don't really care about your stack. You know, Ukomon's going to promote up. You kill something with Gizamon, AT, pop your Ukomon. You're going to trash with Demimera to hopefully trash the Balphamon Rage, to set yourself up to get your sleep mode into your hand, and just go off from there. The deck is pretty linear, and you kind of get an understanding what it kind of does in the long game. You know, Jagger, Loimon, just to go on top of your Akihiro. I mean, yeah, the deck is going to do what it wants to do. I have no objections here. This is pretty solid. Then we do have Armors. I think this is the last deck. Armors was very interesting to see on Play TCG. A lot of people are still trying to learn how to crack it, and I mean, it's a really good deck. I think it just takes time to get it. It's one of those things with a higher learning curve, but you have Magnamons and Magnamons and Magnamons. You're kind of hyper-focusing on what you're going to be playing in the future. Ukumon's just being Ukumon with the Louis. You're just gonna rush out and just get your opponent to have a bad day. I mean, yeah, you got 2 Heaven's Judgment, Ice Wall, Full Meter Impact, and the Awakening of the Golden Digizord to help deal with minusing TP. Davis here to play a Vmon, set yourself up, especially this Vmon here being able to reduce the Digievolution cost by 1. Really does help out. And Zudamon Ace just to go on top of your Magnas to climb naturally into Magnamon X Antibody. There's plenty of things you can go about it, and I'm really excited to see how this evolves in future formats. We know what it's going to do in BT-16, but maybe this coming weekend we'll see another, you know, Magnamon or Armor Rush deck. But all in all, guys, though, we kind of got a good synopsis of what we're going to see going forwards in this format. Yeah, did you guys like this video? Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll catch you next one. Peace.